Welcome back, friends. This is a very special video today. We're going to be talking about a very important moment in business history. And so we're going to talk about some of the valuable lessons you can learn and how you can apply those lessons to the business world today. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the California Gold Rush. The California Gold Rush was an important moment in business history. You might have heard the term the 49ers. Well, that term came from all of the people who moved to California in 1849. The population of San Francisco grew from 1,000 people to 25,000 people by 1850. And so people moved to California from all over the world because people were finding large amounts of gold. Now, some people became rich because they found gold deposits. But what a lot of people don't realize is the most successful people during the California Gold Rush weren't the gold miners, but it was the business owners and entrepreneurs who sold products and services to the gold miners. The reason for this is that prices during the gold rush skyrocketed. Now, let me show you some of the prices that I'm talking about. These are some values that were published in a recent article by the San Francisco Chronicle. And this looks at a list of a couple of different items, what the prices were in the gold rush, and then what's the equivalent prices in today's dollars. So here you can see the yearly rent someone would pay at the El Dorado Gambling Emporium, which was a 15 by 25 foot tent. They would pay $40,000 a year in the gold rush. Now the equivalent of that is $1.15 million in today's dollars. Now, if we look at another item here, we have the shovel. You would have paid $36 in the gold rush, but you would have paid $1,083 in today's equivalent. A quart of whiskey in the gold rush was $30. In today, it would be $862. And if you were to buy breakfast, which would consist of bread, cheese, butter, sardines, and 2 bottles of beer, you're paying $43, or the equivalent of $1,294. This table shows how crazy prices were during the gold rush. And I mean, just think about it. What would your life be like if when you went out to get breakfast, it cost you over $1,000 to eat? Now, there are 3 main reasons why prices were so high. The first is barriers to entry from geography. The second was there was a valuable commodity, which was gold. And the third was there was increased demand from population growth. Let's break each one of these down. The first one is barriers to entry from geography. Now, at the time, California was very remote because it was so difficult to get there. You know, we talked about how the first people to arrive were called 49ers. But the interesting thing was gold was actually discovered in 1848. But people didn't show up until a year later because it was so difficult to get there. There was only 3 ways you could get to California. The first way was you could walk across the continent. The second way was you could sail to Panama, walk through the jungle, and board another boat on the other side, or you could sail around South America. All of these methods were dangerous and took a long time. And so once you had all these people who finally got to California, then it took a long time to get any supplies to California because all the supplies had to come the same way. And so you have these barriers to entry because of geography. Second was the presence of a valuable commodity. So in this case, the valuable commodity was gold. And so you had all of this new value entering the marketplace, which enabled people to pay these high prices. Finally, the increase in population growth drove demand. So I'm sure you can imagine all of the problems when you have a city grow from 1,000 people to 25,000 people in the matter of a year. You have shortages for food, you have shortages for housing, and that's why people were paying the equivalent of over $1 million to stay in a tent for a year. The reason why I like talking about this moment in history is because it's a really good example of supply and demand at work. Economics teaches us that prices are driven by supply and demand. You can see this on a chart with axis for price and quantity. Two intersecting lines represent supply and demand. If the quantity of demand increases, prices increase. If the amount of supply increases, prices decrease. We can use this graph to understand why prices during the gold rush are so high. The barriers to entry from geography means that the amount of supply is set. You cannot bring more goods into the market because it takes a year to get there. But since the population skyrocketed, demand increased and prices also increased. This environment was very good for business owners, and business owners became very successful. Now, I'm not saying that business owners exploited the people in the situation. Prices are a sign of value. And so when prices go up, that's telling entrepreneurs that there's an opportunity to add value to the people in this marketplace. So in this situation, you better believe that those entrepreneurs saw those high prices, entered the market, and went out and ordered more supplies. And so when those supplies showed up a year later, those prices would then drop and stabilize, and everybody becomes better off. The reason you learn about history is so that you can better understand the world today. So if you are a business leader and you understand how supply and demand works, you're able to better position your business to take advantage of opportunities in the market. So what I want to do is I want to look at an example in the business world today to see if we can draw any similarities. The example I'm going to use is the commercial space industry. Now, when we look at the space industry today, what is the valuable commodity? That commodity is weightlessness. Weightlessness does not exist on the surface of the planet Earth because of gravity. But once you enter a microgravity environment, a lot of amazing things become possible. There are technological advances going on in chemistry, biology, medicine, manufacturing, that all become possible in weightlessness. Let's just look at chemistry as an example. So if you were doing a chemistry experiment and you were to create a solution and suspend some particles in a liquid, well, on the surface of the planet Earth, gravity would eventually pull those particles to the bottom of your solution. Well, if you're in space, in a weightless environment, those particles would stay perfectly suspended in your solution, and all kinds of new things become possible in chemistry. This is so valuable that some of the biggest companies in the world are paying huge amounts of money to perform science experiments on the International Space Station. Now, the thing about performing experiments on the International Space Station is that prices are extremely high. And the reason why prices are so high are the same three reasons we talked about during the California Gold Rush. We see barriers to entry because it is so difficult to get to space. We see a valuable commodity in weightlessness, and we see increased demand from companies. Now, I'm not saying that we're in another gold rush. What I'm saying is that when you understand business history, you'll start to see these ebbs and flows in supply and demand. These patterns in business show up over and over again, and it is the business leader's responsibility to recognize these ebbs and flows in supply and demand and use them to provide value to society. I wanted to have this discussion to show you how useful it is to understand business history. History provides you the context to better understand the business environment today, and that will help you to make better business decisions. Now I want to hear from you. If you think it's important to learn about history to be a business leader, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, if you found it helpful, click on the subscribe button. The best way to supercharge a business is through accounting and corporate finance, and I release a new video every week. So come back and check out next week's video.